On Thursday morning, there was shocking news. Christian Horner stated that Lewis Hamilton attempted to talk with Red Bull Racing earlier in 2023. What is the point of contacting Red Bull whilst being at Mercedes? Horner mentioned a possible move. This meant that we would have seen Hamilton and Verstappen fight in the same machinery. We now know it's not happening soon, but what are the chances in the future, and what did the key players have to say about it? Stick around to find out what Hamilton, Verstappen and Horner had to say about the possible move. Following Christian Horner's statement in an interview with the Daily Mail that conversations were undertaken earlier this year, some may now be visualizing a Lewis Hamilton to Red Bull scenario. It's hardly surprising that a top driver's management talks with rival teams, especially one with the greatest car in Formula One at the moment. It would be surprising if Hamilton's management did not conduct this as part of the due diligence procedure for any new agreement. Horner, the Red Bull team principal, has had a role in this. "We have had several conversations over the years about Lewis joining," Horner is quoted as saying by the Mail. "They have reached out a few times. Most recently, earlier in the year, there was an inquiry about whether there would be any interest. He met Ferrari chairman John Elkann too. I think there were serious talks. It was around Monaco in late May. There were definitely conversations, perhaps with Vasseur too, but certainly with Elkann. But I can't see Max Verstappen and Lewis working out together. The dynamic wouldn't be right. We are 100% happy with what we have." Such remarks are all part of Red Bull's dramatic back and forth with Mercedes, so it's an easy grenade to throw into the mix, and you might argue it's useful to stir the pot. However, it would be remarkable if Max Verstappen's management had not maintained contact with rival teams, simply because that is what drivers and their management do. The same is true for every great F1 driver, thus Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, and the rest will have kept some kind of communication open, no matter how foggy. After all, what are the ramifications of not at least consulting with F1's senior management before signing a new contract? It's quite improbable, but surprises happen all the time in the driver market, and a driver like Hamilton would never want to close the door prematurely. If a Red Bull drive was in the works, it would be worth seriously considering, so you check. If nothing else, it may provide useful bargaining leverage. That's how the game works, and it always has. The truth is that a top driver contacted a competitor while weighing future choices. It's happened before, and it will happen again, so since Hamilton has already signed a 2-year agreement with Mercedes, this story seems to be not happening. At least not for now. And Lewis Hamilton has now officially denied that he or a member of his team approached Red Bull early this year about a possible switch to the team. So, which part of the story is true? Hamilton, speaking to Sky Sports at the Yas Marina circuit, refuted Horner's remarks. "I don't really know where that story has come from," Hamilton said. "I know it's come from Christian. I don't really understand what he's been talking about. No one, as far as I'm aware from my team, has spoken to him. I haven't spoken to Christian in years." Hamilton signed a new contract with Mercedes earlier this year, committing to the team until at least the conclusion of the 2025 season, alongside George Russell. Although he denied any desire in a trade, the 7-time world champion said that he had contact with Horner, but that it was the Red Bull team principal who initiated contact. "However, he did reach out to me earlier in the year about meeting up," Hamilton added. "I just congratulated them on an amazing year. I said, hopefully soon I'll be able to fight against you guys in the near future. That was it. So I'm not really sure. I think he's just stirring things. There aren't any confidential discussions, so I don't know. You know Christian, he loves that kind of stuff." According to Hamilton, Horner likes to make such statements, but the Brit reiterates, there have been no talks about a switch. At the same time, if the opportunity did arise to teammate Max Verstappen, Hamilton would not say no to it. The 7-time champion also confesses, 100% would be more than happy to race against him in an equal car. "For me, Red Bull has done an amazing job and it is an incredible team. And any driver would love to drive for such a great group of people. I think moving from a car that's not so great to a winning car, from my perspective, that's not a dream. The dream is always to start where we kind of are and build up to then winning, and that's why I've stayed with Mercedes." After the news broke, Hamilton had to go into damage control mode, especially after there had been contact indeed, but not in the way Horner said it was. So Hamilton was quick to tell his own team and Wolff about what was his truth. "I did tell Toto, especially when the story obviously broke, just because I have so much respect for Toto. We have a great relationship. Also wanted my team to know because people think those things, and it's never positive. Initially I just replied to him on my new phone, It was after a weekend, I can't remember, but it was quite late on that I found the message. But it was from earlier on in the year, so it was like months later. When asked if they'll still drink coffee, Hamilton says, "Probably not." After the news broke and Hamilton stated he wouldn't mind racing Max Verstappen in the same machinery, the world champion obviously received the same question. Would Verstappen be up for a battle against the 7-time champion in the same car? Wouldn't he like to know what it would be like against the Briton in the same team? What would it add to know? I don't know, but it's not happening. There's no point in making up stories if it's not happening. I wouldn't mind. It doesn't matter to anyone. I don't want to put it like now, particularly on Lewis. There are so many great drivers as well, so sometimes it just doesn't work out like that, Verstappen explained. Both drivers don't seem to bother fighting each other in the same machinery. But if it did happen, it would have left a huge hole in Mercedes' squad. And who could have possibly filled those boots? Given that Horner indicated conversations took place around the time of the May Monaco Grand Prix, Hamilton joining Red Bull would have given Wolff plenty of time to react, depending on when an agreement was struck, of course. However, even at this early stage of the 2023 season, most drivers were already under contract for the next season, including the seat Hamilton would replace, Sergio Perez. Obviously, there was a lot of talk earlier this year about Charles Leclerc possibly switch from Ferrari to Mercedes, and Hamilton the other way. But Leclerc was already under contract for 2024, as was teammate Carlos Sainz, so neither would have been easy to poach even if they wanted to make the move. And given how the season has gone so far for Mercedes, it would be nothing more than a sideways shift for any driver. McLaren already had Lando Norris contracted until the end of 2025, and rookie Oscar Piastri wouldn't have been available for at least another year, even before signing a new deal to keep him with the team until the end of 2026. Fernando Alonso could have been able to walk away from Aston Martin, considering that a driver of his caliber would have had the upper hand in discussions to replace Sebastian Vettel there, so an escape clause would have probably been added to his contract. However, considering that Aston Martin's first half of the season was so strong and Alonso came within one strategic risk of winning in Monaco, it's unlikely he would have considered the switch to Mercedes as a wise one to make at that stage of the season. Alex Albon was already under contract with Williams until the end of 2024. Pierre Gasly and former Mercedes reserve Esteban Ocon were both signed to Alpine and will be for at least another season. Haas also held options on both Nico Hülkenberg and Kevin Magnussen, meaning Mercedes would have had to pay compensation to get any of those two drivers. So, among the easily accessible drivers were Bottas, Zhou Guanyu, the AlphaTauri drivers, and Williams rookie Logan Sargent. At this stage in the season, Red Bull had not yet chosen whether to replace Nick de Vries with Daniel Ricciardo, thus the Australian would have been potentially available, albeit clearly remaining committed to Red Bull as a backup driver. So, realistically, Mercedes would have had to choose between signing Perez, trying to sign Ricciardo, reuniting with Bottas, promoting Mick Schumacher from his 2023 reserve role, taking a chance on luring Schumacher's mentor Sebastian Vettel out of retirement, or paying a premium to try to sign someone from Aston Martin, Ferrari, McLaren, Alpine, or Williams for Albon. Perez would have been the most straightforward choice, but he's not particularly convincing, and a clear step down from Hamilton-Russell. Vettel would be an interesting tale, but there would be clear concerns about the level of driving Mercedes would be receiving. If it were for Gasly or Ocon, they might see becoming George Russell's new Mercedes teammate as a step up the grid, especially now that the team has changed its development direction, but it's difficult to see Alonso, Norris, Leclerc or Sainz being so easily persuaded that leaving where they are has more potential than staying. In any event, Wolff would have to put in some effort now to attract some of the greatest talent on the grid following their recent years. Would you have loved to see Hamilton join Red Bull? And could a switch become reality in the future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.